Shalom, and you're now locked in here at Israelite Talk TV, where you get nothing but the raw and the real whenever I'm in front of the camera. So make sure y'all show the page some love, like, subscribe, and share. Shalom and greetings, and welcome back to another episode here at Israelite Talk TV, where you get nothing but the 100 whenever I'm in front of the camera. Now, this morning, family, I want you guys to join me for coffee hour as I break down and explain to you the truth about racism, right? Now, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on all notifications, and share this video with the masses because they're going to want to hear this, right? Now, I want to take a time to educate my people on this subject of racism so you guys can understand what's really going on behind the scenes, right? Racism is something that's created by Europeans, right? And it's a defense mechanism in order to try to attempt to save and preserve their race, okay? And this is what they will not tell you, okay? And it's a simple thing to understand, right? Because, see, it's a known fact that the original man is a black man, okay? The original man and the original woman was black, right? And European geneticists, historians, or however they want to classify themselves, admit to this, okay? So this is not no, trying to be funny or anything like that. Even they admit this, okay? So they all admit to having origins in Africa, and they're always coming with this out of Africa theory, right? And if you guys took the time to sit down and watch the end of white supremacy, I broke all of this down and gave it to you, right? Europeans actually got kicked out of Africa, okay, going all the way back to the days and times of Cain, because this is how they trace back to the continent, right? Because when Cain got kicked out of the garden, right, he went and made it with subspecies. Now, these subspecies are no longer here today. This is why, as they're going into the caves up in Europe, they're finding all these Neanderthals, because these Neanderthals were subspecies. They were not the original Homo sapien, the original black man. So when Cain got kicked out of the garden, okay, and he went and took his abode up in the land of Nod, which you also have to understand. If we know that the Garden of Eden is in the what they call today the Middle East or whatever that however they want to classify it, then we know that going east from there is going towards Europe, okay? So we know that Cain took his habitation up in Europe and he made it with the Neanderthals and the Denisovans, the beasts of the field. So when you hear people talking about the reptilian race and all of this other stuff, this is the origin, right? Okay, this is not even up for debate. It's not even to be argued, right? These are known facts. Okay, so the European creates racism in order to not explain their origin, where they come from. They don't want to explain to you that they are a subspecies, okay? And this is important to understand because you have two different mechanisms at work. This is why when you look here in the nation and even around the world, the white race is declining, right? Okay, and this is important to understand because this is their whole thing. They know that here by 2050, they're going to be a minority here in the United States, right? So they're trying everything in their power to stop that from happening. And this is why they create racism in order to put up barriers. This is why everywhere they go in the world, okay, even out in South Africa, and I got something that's coming on South Africa because today what is known as South Africa is really not South Africa, okay? It's really North Africa, right? And they inhabit North Africa because it's close to Antarctica, right? It's cooler up there in North Africa. That Cape Town and all of that area is not no South Africa, okay? South is the other way, okay? And it's a real simple thing to understand. This is why in the Bible, when it speaks about the kings of the north are where? In Babylon. That's north. That's north from Israel. So how can north from Egypt going in the same direction be south? It could never be. That could never ever be the case, right? Okay. So understand that today what is known as North Africa is really, what's known as South Africa is really North Africa, and they inhabit Cape Town because it's cooler up there and it's cooler by Antarctica. You know what I'm saying? You don't see them down there in mass droves down in Ghana and all these different places because the heat will kill them. You know what I'm saying? Because their bodies are not designed to inhabit those areas. Why? Because the Father kicked them out of that area and put the sign on them, which was the sign of white skin. Okay? Think about that. That same spirit that's in Cain is the same spirit. These Europeans will go out and kill you, not even thinking about it. This is why the Father told the Israelites that he was going to raise up a fierce upon me that's way fiercer than the Babylonians and all of these people, because that was their people. Okay? Got to understand, back during the Babylonian captivity, the Israelites, that's their people. Got to remember, Abraham, he was a Chaldean. He was from Mesopotamia. So that area, that's all they people. That's why he said, I'm going to deport you beyond Babylon. Okay. So let's look at some stats here, right? Because I want you guys to understand this. And this is what these Europeans that sit at the top really fear, right? Now, we're going to the first article, and I'll leave these links down in the description box so you guys can look at it. But Times of India put out a article back in August 2021, right? Now listen to this, family. It says the browning of America is accelerating with the white population in the country is poised to drop below 60% for the first time in its history, even as people of color add to its numbers, according to the latest U.S. Census data, right? It says, according to the census data, white population has declined by more than 1 million over the last 4 years, wiping out their modest population growth from 2010 to 2016. The pace of decrease is now accelerating, right? Think about that, right? It says, well, white population fell by estimated 129,000 people between 2016 and 2017. Think about that. Now listen to this. The decline sped up to 482,000 between 2019 and 2020, resulting in an overall decline of nearly 1 million whites in decade of 2010 to 2020. Demographics say 2010 could be the first decade when the nation's white population registered an absolute loss, going down from 63.8 to 59.7% between July 2010 and July 2020. You see, now this is the thing right here that they do, right? And I want to turn you guys on to something, right? It says the browning of America is being fueled primarily by minority groups, particularly Hispanics and Latino Americans, who grew by at least 1 million in 8 of the last 10 years, the overall 10.5 million between 2010 and 2020. Asian America grew too by about 500,000 in 7 of the last 10 years, going up 4.7 over the decade. African Americans registered a slower growth, expanding by 300,000 in 8 of the last 10 years, for an estimate 3.4 million increase since 2010 census, right? Now, one thing that I want you guys to understand, whenever it comes down to the Israelites here in this nation, right? They're not going to never tell you what the real number is, right? Because they don't never want you to know that you're outpopulating them. See, what you got to understand is that blacks reproduce at a higher rate, because you got to understand that the black man and the black woman is the original. So it's going to always, we're going to always repopulate fast, and they know this. And so this is why they use all these different mechanisms in order to knock off the black race, whether it's jail for the black man, killing in these different communities, where our people are dying. They want this stuff to continue to be fueled, because not only are people being killed and they dying at a young age, but they're also able to, take, steal organs and stuff, because you got to remember that the black man is the original man. You know what I'm saying? So you got to understand that This is why they steal these body parts, and they set up all these blood donation spots in all these neighborhoods in order to steal blood. It's set up to steal is what they do. This is why every time something happens, they say, oh, well, the blacks are at a higher rate. How can the original be let's think about this, family. How can the original, when in history has the original ever been worse than a knockoff? How is that even possible? But they do that in order to get you to come into the hospitals in order to allegedly, okay, let me just put that in there, you know what I'm saying, allegedly, right, in order to steal blood, because they know that we have the original blood. They know that, you know, and this is what makes everything tick. So this is why they create racism, because they do not want blacks breeding with white, especially white men. They don't want, with white women. They don't want black men sleeping with white women, because they know that we're going to dirty up the water. You know what I'm saying? We're going to change that water. You know what I mean? And that child is going to come out black. So they don't want that, you know? And then as those blacks are born and they breed back with more blacks, then they just become more blacker. They know this. So this was the whole purpose of the marriage license. This was the whole purpose of the marriage license, in order so that they could watch to make sure that black men wasn't marrying white women. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny how you got all these churches running around preaching this fake doctrine in the church. It's a false and a fake doctrine. Anybody subscribing to Christianity, in that New Testament, any shape, fashion, or form, is fake, okay? But prior to that time, did you guys know that during slavery time, they would take the slaves, they would take the males and take them to different plantations and breed them with the women? Did you know that they would tear up households? They would take men from their wives and separate them and take them to different plantations and things like that. So these people don't really care nothing about marriage and all of this stuff that they're preaching in the church. Just check the history. You know what I'm saying? So understand that racism is a mechanism designed by Europeans in order to preserve the white race. If they do not set boundaries, it is over with. And they know this. Okay? So you have to understand this, because I tell white people all the time, I'm not mad because you know what I'm saying. Listen, if people are racist, then you tell them, how can you be racist to me and you come from me? You come from me. You know what I'm saying? So you can never, how can you be racist to black people when you come from the black man? How? You know what I'm saying? That don't even make any sense. And these are the things you have to bring back to their remembrance. And this is why it's important to study the history, okay? So they already know that here in America, they're declining. This is why you hear the big push for no abortions, no this and that, because they have to find a way in order to beef up the birth rate, because it's declining, and they know this. You know what I'm saying? You see? And the fact of the matter is just, you know what I'm saying? Now listen, I'm not being funny, family. You know what? I ain't even finna go there. Let's just keep on pushing, right? So anyway, now listen to this, right? It says in 2016, more non-Hispanic whites died than were born in the 26 states, more than at any time in U.S. history. Okay? Now, what's interesting is they always say non-Hispanic whites, because what they like to do is they like to inflate the numbers and beef their numbers up like they just so, you know what I'm saying? But they do it by adding, you know, the Asian American, the Latino American, all of these other different things to beef their numbers up, but they know that they're on a decline, you know? So yeah, you know what I mean? These are things that we have to that we got to know. Now listen to this right here, right? It says, and this is an article on PBS, right? Okay, and I'm gonna leave all of these links in the description box, right? But check this out right here, right? It says today, after whites, Hispanic population is the next biggest group at 18.7 of the U.S. That's a lie. Okay, allegedly. Okay, they're gonna always beef every other number because they don't want to say, oh, well, blacks is right behind whites. These are the biggest, you know what I'm saying? They know this, you know what I mean? So listen what they say right here, right? It says, what would the country look like racially in 2030. Whites will have dropped to 55.8% of the population, and Hispanics will have grown to 21.1. The percentage of black and Asian men will also go significant. But why don't they now think about this? Why didn't they put what the black population would be? They put what the whites would be. They put what the Hispanic will have grown to, but the Asian American, listen, the percentage of black and Asian Americans will grow significantly. That's all they're going to say. You're not going to give us any percentages. Like, man, these people are funny, man. And I understand it, because what you guys got to understand, Tanakh teaches us that these people are not our friends. They are our enemies, okay? That's what Tanakh teaches, okay? And there's nothing wrong with being enemies. There's countries around the world that are enemies, but they still find a way to coexist here on the earth and, do business and do things how they do it. So there's nothing wrong with that, right? Okay? But listen to this right here, family. It says, so between now and 2030, whites as a proportion of the population will get smaller and the minority race groups will keep getting bigger. Eventually, whites will become a minority, dropping below 50% of the U.S. population around 2045. And that ain't that far around. That ain't that far away. So the more that they continue, the more they continue to integrate and they do this and that, the Most High is always ahead of them, okay? All their tricks and their traps always backfire on them. So then this is why they resort to the racism, and they have to spark these race debates and arguments and things like that in order to try to keep a division. Why do you think, family? Why do you think when you saw this stuff with the, what's the Dallas Cowboy, with Jerry Jones and all of this stuff, and then, all of this race stuff, they pushed these points to get the discussion to make sure that blacks are outraged, that they don't like white, so they don't deal with white, specifically white women, because they don't want black men to breed with white women, you know what I'm saying? Because they know that's going to produce black children, you know what I'm saying? So they have to keep this narrative going to some degree to stop, you know what I'm saying, them being breeded out, you know what I mean? So these are the facts right here, family. And these are the things that we have to know because, if you really want to get back, you already know what to do, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's interesting that, and I was just looking at some numbers. I'm not going to say these are the accurate numbers, but I looked up the slaves that came to America, and they estimate between 1525 and 1886, there was approximately 12.5 million Africans that were shipped to the New World. 10.7 million survived the dreaded Middle Passage, disembarking in North America and the Caribbean and South America. So now I'm not sure if that's broke down between the Caribbeans and all of that, but let me see. In 1830, U.S. population was 12.8 million, more than 2 million slaves. So think about that. In 1830, there was about 12 million slaves. 1830, 1930, 2030, that's coming up, right? In almost 200 years since that time period, we've been a jump from 12.8 because they have us estimated right now at 41.6 million. And it's more than that, because what they do is that you have those that identify as different races if they're mixed. You know what I'm saying? If they mix, they may sometimes say white or Hispanic. If they, Mexico, Dominican, Puerto Rican, from the Caribbeans or whatever, they may identify as Hispanic, but those individuals are black though. You know what I'm saying? So they fudge the numbers. This number is really more than this, but in 2020, they had it at estimated 41.6 million. So we're continuing to go up, and this is a problem, and they have to find a way to try to keep the country running, but at the same time keep up boundaries. And this is why everywhere they go in the world where blacks are at, they put up this defense mechanism. So I wanted to just take a few minutes out this morning to try to educate y'all, give y'all a little understanding on this. Make sure y'all share this, get this out to the blogs, get this out to our people, man. Take the time out to really sit down and watch this, get, you know what I'm saying, get the information, and come out of La La Land, okay? Because you got to understand what's going on behind the scenes and what these people are really fearing and what they're really dread. You know what I mean? So y'all stay safe out there today, and I'm signing off here at Israelite Talk TV. Shalom.